I loved you enough to let you go. An emotional story inspired by Die for You. The convenience store wasn't special. At least, not to anyone else. It sat between a laundromat and a closed pharmacy on a street most people only used as a shortcut. The fluorescent sign outside flickered every few seconds. The coffee machine was older than some of the customers. And the cashier always looked mildly annoyed to be alive. Yet somehow, it became their place. Not because they planned. Not because it meant anything. Just because life kept bringing them back there. The first time they met was at 2:13 in the morning. A terrible time to meet anyone. Especially when both people were having one of the worst nights of their lives. He was sitting on the curb outside the store holding a cup of coffee he'd already forgotten to drink. The city around him felt strangely empty. Cars passed occasionally. Streetlights buzzed overhead. The world kept moving. He didn't. Inside his pocket was a folded piece of paper. A rejection letter. The third one that month. The fifth that year. By that point, he wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. Tired of trying. Tired of hoping. Tired of pretending every setback didn't bother him. The coffee had gone cold. He didn't care. A voice interrupted his thoughts. You're supposed to drink it before it dies. He looked up. A woman stood near the entrance holding a plastic bag full of snacks. He stared for a second. Confused. The coffee. She pointed. It's already dead. He looked at the cup. Then at her. Then back at the cup. I paid for it. Then you're wasting money. That's a little aggressive. She shrugged. You look like you needed honesty. For some reason. He laughed. A real laugh. The first one in weeks. The woman smiled. Mission accomplished. Then she started walking away. That should have been the end of it. Two strangers. One weird conversation. Nothing more. Instead, she stopped after a few steps. Turned around. And pointed at the empty space beside him. Mind if I sit? He hesitated. Then shrugged. Sure. The woman sat down. Opened a bag of chips. And immediately offered him some. No introduction. No small talk. No explanation. Just chips. The strange thing was, it didn't feel strange. They sat there eating in silence for almost 10 minutes. Watching cars pass. Watching people come and go. The city is breathing around them. Eventually, the woman spoke. Bad night. He looked at the rejection letter sticking out of his pocket. Then laughed. That obvious? A little. She nodded. Mine too. He glanced at her. You got rejected too. The woman smiled. No. Then she looked down at the sidewalk. Something worse. He waited. She didn't elaborate. The conversation ended there. Neither pushed. Neither asked questions. Because sometimes strangers are easier to sit with than friends. Strangers don't expect explanations. Strangers don't demand answers. By the time they finally stood up, it was almost 3 in the morning. The woman crumpled her empty snack bag and tossed it into a nearby trash bin. Then stretched. Well. Well. They both laughed. Still strangers. Still knowing almost nothing about each other. Then she started walking away. Again. This time she made it farther. Almost to the corner. Before stopping. Again. The man couldn't help smiling. She turned around. You come here often. He groaned. Seriously. What? That's your line. She pointed at the convenience store. It's a convenience store at 2 in the morning. Fair. So. He thought about it. Then nodded. Sometimes. The woman smiled. Me too. Then she disappeared around the corner. And that was that. Or at least it should have been. 3 nights later, he returned. Not intentionally. He genuinely needed coffee. At least that's what he told himself. The same cashier was working. The same fluorescent sign flickered overhead. The same coffee machine made noises that sounded medically concerning. Everything was exactly the same. Except for one thing. She was there. Sitting on the curb. Eating chips. The moment she saw him, she pointed. See? See what? I told you. Told me what? You do come here often. The man rolled his eyes. Then sat down beside her. Not because he planned to. Because it felt natural. Like continuing a conversation that had only paused. Weeks passed. Then months. The convenience store became routine. Neither knew exactly when it happened. One day they were strangers. The next day they were looking for each other every time they arrived. Some nights they talked for hours. Some nights they barely spoke. Neither seemed to mind. The silence never felt awkward. Only familiar. Slowly, details emerged. She worked freelance jobs from home. He was trying to build a career that never seemed to cooperate. She loved old movies. He had never seen most of them. He hated pineapple on pizza. She treated this opinion like a personal attack. The arguments were surprisingly intense. The stakes were incredibly low. And somehow, those became the conversations he looked forward to most. One rainy night, almost a year after they met, the woman arrived unusually late. For the first time, he checked the clock. 2:21 a.m. 2:28. 2:34. He hated that he noticed. More importantly, he hated that he worried. At 2:39, she finally appeared. Running. Completely soaked. Carrying no umbrella. Nope. She pointed immediately. No judging. I wasn't going to. You were. I absolutely was. She laughed. Then sat down beside him. Breathing hard. For a few minutes neither spoke. Just listening to the rain hit the pavement. Then the woman quietly said, "You know." What? She looked toward the glowing convenience store sign. "I think this is the only place where I don't have to pretend everything's okay." The man stared ahead, watching reflections dance in puddles. Then nodded. Yeah. Because he understood. Perfectly. And neither of them realized it yet. But somewhere between coffee, rain, and late-night conversations, they had already become the person the other trusted most. The first time she called him at 4 in the morning, he assumed something was wrong. People don't call at 4 in the morning unless something happens. An emergency. An accident. Bad news. His phone rang 3 times before he answered. Hello. Silence. Then. Quick question. He sat up in bed. What? Do you think penguins have knees? The room went quiet. He blinked. Once. Twice. Are you serious? Very. It's 4 in the morning. I know. You woke me up to ask about penguin knees. Yes. A pause. Then. So. The man dropped back onto his pillow. I hate you. She laughed. A loud, uncontrollable laugh. The kind that made him smile despite himself. And just like that, the conversation lasted another 2 hours. That became normal. Not the penguin questions. The calls. The messages. The random updates. A picture of a weird cloud. A bad joke. A movie recommendation. An unfinished thought sent at midnight. The kind of things people only share when someone has become part of their daily life. Eventually, the convenience store stopped being the only place they met. There were coffee shops, late-night walks, bookstores, movie nights, long drives with no destination. The friendship expanded naturally, like it had always been heading there. Still, they always ended up back at the convenience store. It remained their constant, their checkpoint, their place. One evening, she arrived carrying a small cardboard box. The man immediately frowned. What is that? A terrible financial decision. That's not an answer. She opened the box. Inside was a second-hand camera. Old. Scratched. Definitely overpriced. Her smile was enormous. I bought it. The man stared. You can't afford that. I know. Then why buy it? She looked down at the camera. Then shrugged. Because every time I wait until I'm ready, I end up doing nothing. The words stayed with him. Long after the conversation ended. Because she wasn't really talking about the camera. And they both knew it. A few months later, he finally landed the job he'd spent years chasing. A good one. The kind that made all the rejection letters feel worth it. When he got the email, she was the first person he called. Not his parents. Not his coworkers. Not anyone else. Her. The phone rang once. Twice. Then she answered. What happened? The man laughed. What makes you think something happened? You only call during work hours when something happens. Fair. He took a breath. Then told her. The silence on the other end lasted exactly 2 seconds. Before she started screaming. Actually screaming. Loud enough that he had to pull the phone away from his ear. And for some reason, he felt happier hearing her celebrate than receiving the job itself. That scared him a little. Not enough to do anything about it. Just enough to notice. Life kept moving. As it always does. Good months. Bad months. Ordinary months. One night, he arrived at the convenience store and immediately knew something was off. She was already there. Which wasn't unusual. The silence was. Usually she'd have something to say. A complaint. A joke. A random observation. Tonight she was staring at the ground. The man sat beside her. Waited. Eventually she spoke. I got accepted. He smiled immediately. That's great. She nodded. It wasn't. Not the way she said it. Not the way she looked. The smile slowly disappeared. Where? The woman took a deep breath. Then told him. Another country. Thousands of miles away. A company she'd been trying to work for since college. The kind of opportunity people wait years for. The kind of opportunity people dream about. The man stared ahead. At the passing cars. At the glowing store sign. At everything except her. Because he knew exactly what he was supposed to say. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. You deserve this. And he meant every word. That was the problem. Because another part of him was quietly thinking. Don't go. He hated that part. Immediately. Completely. Because the dream wasn't the problem. The distance wasn't the problem. The problem was simpler. The problem was that he couldn't imagine life without her in. And somehow, that realization arrived years too late. The woman laughed softly. Not because anything was funny. Because she already knew what he was thinking. You have that face. What face? The one where you're pretending you're okay. I am okay. Terrible liar. The man looked away. She smiled sadly. Then they leaned back against the concrete wall behind them. Say something. He thought for a moment. Then nodded. Take it. The woman looked at him. Surprised. That's it. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Neither did he. Because the truth was messy. The truth was selfish. The truth was that every good thing he wanted for her seemed to take her farther away. And somehow that felt unfair. The rain started falling. Light at first. Barely noticeable. The woman looked toward the street. You think we'll stay friends? The question landed harder than either expected. Because neither of them was talking about friendship. Not really. They were talking about time. Distance. Change. Life. The things that slowly pull people apart. The things nobody can control. The man watched rain gather on the pavement. Then answered honestly. I don't know. For once. Neither of them had a joke ready. Neither had a clever answer. Only silence. And the growing realization that some chapters don't end because people stop caring. Sometimes they end because life asks them to keep moving. Even if they don't want to. The last month passed too quickly. At least, that's how it felt. One day there were 30 days left. Then 20. Then 10. Then somehow. 3. The strange thing was neither of them talked about it much. Not directly. No dramatic conversations. No countdowns. No speeches. Just an unspoken awareness sitting between them every time they met. Like a train approaching in the distance. Still far away. Yet impossible to ignore. The convenience store remained unchanged. The same flickering sign. The same old coffee machine. The same cashier who still looked annoyed to be alive. Everything was exactly as it had always been. Except them. Because now every conversation felt heavier. Not sad. Just important. As if both were secretly trying to memorize things. The sound of a laugh. The timing of a joke. The way the other person looked when they were thinking. Little things. The kinds of details nobody intentionally remembers. Yet somehow never forgets. 3 nights before her flight, they sat on the curb as usual. Neither spoke for a while. The city was quieter than normal. A cool breeze drifted through the empty streets. The woman looked toward the convenience store. Then smiled. You know what's funny? What? I don't even like their coffee. The man laughed. Then why have you been buying it for years? She shrugged. You were here. Simple. 3 words. Nothing more. Yet somehow, they carried the weight of everything neither had ever said. The man looked away immediately. Toward the road. Toward the traffic lights. Toward literally anything else. Because some truths become dangerous when you look directly at them. The woman noticed. Of course she did. She always did. You know. She hesitated. Then continued. I was really scared when we first met. The man looked at her. Scared of what? Everything. Her voice was softer now. More honest than usual. I was having a terrible year. The man didn't interrupt. I never told you because I didn't know how. The woman laughed quietly. And then some random guy with cold coffee kept showing up. The man smiled. I had a rough year too. I know. How? She looked at him like he'd asked the dumbest question imaginable. Because I was there. The answer hit harder than expected. Because it was true. She was there. For the rejection letters. For the bad days. For the moments he doubted himself. For the victories. For the failures. For everything. Not solving his problems. Not rescuing him. Just staying. And somehow, that mattered more. The final night arrived without permission. No one was ready for it. Not really. The airport would have made sense. A dramatic goodbye. A final embrace. A cinematic ending. Instead, they chose the convenience store. Because of course they did. Where else would they go? The woman arrived carrying a single suitcase. The man immediately pointed. That's all you're bringing. Apparently. You're moving across the world. I know. You pack surprisingly light. You sound like my mother. I'll take that as a compliment. She laughed. The sound lingered. For a moment neither spoke. The clock above the store entrance read 1:58 a.m. Her flight left in a few hours. Neither wanted to mention it. Eventually she stood up. The man did too. And for the first time since meeting. Neither seemed to know what came next. No jokes. No sarcasm. No easy escape. Just silent. The woman looked at him. Then smiled. A real smile. The kind people save for moments they'll remember forever. I'm glad it was you. The words were quiet. Almost lost beneath the distant sound of traffic. The man stared. What? The woman looked toward the city. Toward the years behind them. Toward everything they had shared. Then back at him. When things were bad. She smiled. When things were good. Another smile. When life got weird. A laugh. I'm glad it was you. For a second, he couldn't answer. Because suddenly there were 1,000 things he wanted to say. Things he should have said years ago. Things he should have said months ago. Things he would probably regret never saying. Yet somehow, none of them felt right. So he told the truth. The simplest version. The job was lucky to get you. The woman laughed through tears. That's your big goodbye. It's a pretty good one. It really isn't. Okay. He smiled. Then took a breath. I'm glad it was you too. The woman nodded. As if that were enough. Maybe it was. The taxi arrived a few minutes later. Neither rushed. Neither dragged it out. The woman hugged him. A long hug. The kind that says everything words can't. Then she grabbed her suitcase. Opened the taxi door. And stopped. One last time. You'll be okay. The man smiled. Will you? She considered it. Then nodded. Yeah. Then so will I. The woman laughed. Got into the taxi. And left. Just like that. No dramatic ending. No confession. No last-minute miracle. Just a pair of headlights disappearing into the sleeping city. The man stood there long after the taxi was gone. Watching an empty road. Listening to distant traffic. Feeling the absence beside him. And strangely, he wasn't sad. Not entirely. Because losing someone and missing someone aren't always the same thing. She wasn't gone. Not really. She was simply somewhere else now. Chasing the life she'd worked for. The life she deserved. And if he was honest, he wouldn't change that. Not even if he could. Months later, a message arrived at 4:07 in the morning. The phone buzzed beside his bed. Half asleep, he opened it. A single message. No context. No greeting. No explanation. Just, "Do penguins have knees?" The man stared at the screen. Then laughed. A real laugh. The kind he hadn't heard from himself in a while. Outside, the city slept. Thousands of miles away, another city was waking up. Different country. Different time zone. Same person. The man shook his head. Then typed back. "Go to sleep." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then, the man smiled. And for the first time since she left, the distance didn't feel quite so far. Because some people aren't measured in miles. They're measured in impact. And no matter where life took them next, that would never change. Thank you for watching. Follow for more video like this.